Breaking news from WHAS 11 News. Moments ago in a Bardstown courtroom, the final moment. Brooks Houck getting life in prison for his role in killing Crystal Rogers, of course, 10 years ago. Hello, everybody, and thank you very much for joining us as we are on with a special report here from WHAS 11 News for the next few minutes. I'm Doug Proffitt.
And I'm Connie Leonard. Brooks Houck and Joseph Lawson, the judge in the case, going by the jury's recommendations today.
Right to the T there, Connie. Of course, the jury recommendation after the trial ended in July was recommending that Brooks Houck spend the rest of his life in prison, and Joseph Lawson, one of his accomplices, one of two, 25 years, and that's exactly what happened. This sentencing started at 2:30 this afternoon, and here we are, the final decision from the judge coming in a few moments ago. So many of the key family members speaking, giving their impact statements today.
And Doug, wow, some emotional testimony from the family members talking to Brooks Houck today. They have waited 10 years, and honestly, they let him have it.
And I think let's go live now to the courtroom. We can listen to some of the reaction coming in outside the courtroom right now.
The feeling of peace would be to find Crystal's remains for all of us. Whether we ever will, I don't know. I've got doubts about it, but I'm always hopeful and pray about it some. Yeah. So.
Your family spoke directly to him, and he looked them in their eyes. What did you think of his reaction during the sentencing?
Just what I expected. No reaction. I think he doesn't have any remorse. He has no feelings for anyone but himself. I just think he's a sick individual, and for a man that had everything going for him, to choose to do what he did, whether it was for custody of Eli, maybe he thought he wasn't going to see him, but half the time or no time, I don't know what it was about, but still, he could have worked something out. I don't think it would have been worth killing the mother of a child or children for what he done. But again, I think that just goes back to, I feel like he's a sick individual.
And what words do you have for his family?
I think that all of them are kind of in the same, maybe they're all the same type people. I feel like Rhonda wasn't involved in what happened to Crystal, but I feel like she lied for Brooks and for Rosemary and Nick and everybody else. So to me, that doesn't make her any better than they are. And I have nothing for Rosemary. I think she is the devil. That's my feelings on that. You know, as far as my brother Tommy Ballard, I'll never take back what I say every time. I think that they're responsible for the murder of my brother. I think Brooks is involved, Nick's involved, his mother's involved. I think they're all involved, and that's the way I feel. That's my opinion, and I'm sticking with it. You know, Sherry and her kids have been through hell for the last 10 years, and today justice was served. And you can look on my truck at the sign, and to me, that is what justice looks like.
Mike, what is the focus become now? Is Tommy your focus now?
Yes, and I hope that's certainly the Commonwealth of Kentucky's focus to, of course, stay on Crystal's case some more too, to get the rest of that resolved, to try to find her, but also bring the people to justice that killed Tommy. Yeah.
Sherry said that, you know, while Brooks may receive life as he has today, your family has received a lifetime of pain and suffering. You know, as you look forward towards all of the unanswered questions you have of where is Crystal, what happened to Tommy, you know, what is that like, just putting one foot in front of the other every day after this? This is really just one step in this long-awaited, you know, process to find justice.
You know, it's something that it doesn't leave your mind. No matter what you have going on, you think about it every day, at least part of it, but you do have to keep going. Tommy, of course, we know where he is. We know what happened to him. Crystal, you know, we know she was murdered. We don't know where she is, where her remains are. And again, I don't know if they'll ever be found. I hope they are or will be, but time will only tell. And that'd be still something that's going to be very painful for everybody, for Sherry and her children and things especially.
What does this mean for Bardstown as far as healing goes? This town has been struggling since 2013 and then beyond. But what does this mean for the town?
You know, I think the whole town has been very supportive in this every step of the way. I think it's a lot of people feel like they are a part of it and have been, and I think it's a big relief for them as well. Thank you.
Mike Ballard speaking there, the brother of Tommy Ballard. Tommy Ballard, one of the other Bardstown mysteries. Tommy was shot and killed on November 19th, 2016, as he was on a hunting trip with his grandson, though that was the weekend right before Thanksgiving that year. And
many of the family members today who spoke to Brooks Houck spoke about Tommy Ballard, saying that they believe that he was responsible for Tommy Ballard's death. I know. We're going to get throughout that testimony for you as, again, the sentencing has been complete. Brooks Houck, life in prison as expected. The jury's recommendation. Joseph Lawson has accomplished 25 years. And our WHS 11 News legal analyst is Nick Mudd of the Mudd Law Group, a former prosecutor with the Violent Crimes Unit and a defense attorney now. You were listening to some of the testimony earlier from Sherry Ballard, who made a plea on the stand there. Tell me where my daughter is buried.
Right, and it was an emotional day, certainly, for that entire family. I think for really the community of Bardstown as a whole. But, you know, that's the mystery that is still out there is where's the body? And I think, you know, this poor lady, that's all she wants to just bury, you know. It's closed one chapter, but it hasn't closed the entire book because, unfortunately for her and her entire family, we still don't know where the body is. And that's something that we all thought we would get answers to in this trial, and we didn't get any answers to that question. All right, we have some sound from Sherry we want to try to listen to right now.
I miss my daughter every second of every day. I can say that one day I feel like I will see my daughter again. I'm not so sure you could say the same thing about your child. I pray that one day you will grow a heart and have the decency to tell me where my daughter is so we can have a proper burial for her. You owe that much to your own son, and my daughter deserves that.
Sherry Ballard there speaking just this afternoon, looking right at Brooks Houck. Any surprise to you, Nick, that the judge followed exactly what the jury recommended in this case?
None at all. I mean, I don't think there is no reality where this judge was going to deviate from that sentence. It sent a message that, you know, that the jurors took this case seriously, and they gave him the maximum possible penalty here. And certainly, with that kind of message being sent, I don't think there was any way, any shape or form that the judge was going to deviate from what they recommended here.
Can I ask you a question, Nick? But with so much national attention on this case, I mean, there are people all over the world that followed this case because there have been so many documentaries on national programs about it. Does the judge consider where these defendants go now, or these convicted felons, if you will, with so much notoriety in a high-profile case like this? Will they be, you know, where they're going to go to serve their prison sentence?
So he won't have any part in that.
Okay.
His job is to sign the order and say you are committed to life in prison, or you are committed, Joey Lawson, to 25 years in prison. So at this point, what will happen is they will be classified somewhere over the next probably week, 2 weeks, maybe a month or so. Depends on how backed up Department of Corrections is, but we also call them DOC. So DOC basically takes over at this point.
Okay.
And as we say in the legal world, at this point, they are property of DOC. DOC is running the show. Where do they go?
Would they stay in Kentucky?
Absolutely. There would be no reason to really be able to send them out to any other state.
Okay.
It's a state case, not a federal case, so Kentucky is solely responsible for them. But normally what happens is they go to a place called Roederer, which is a
Right.
classification
Oldham
facility
County?
out in Oldham County, absolutely. And they will do, an evaluation of them to see where they should be classified. Should they be in a low security, medium, high security, what they call behind the fence, where they're really limited on what they can do. Given the nature of the charges, they both most likely, in my estimation, will go to a maximum security penitentiary.
How common is a life sentence not only recommended by a jury, but then carried out by a judge here in Kentucky? What's been your experience with life sentences?
I've seen them, prosecuted cases where I had juries give life sentences, I think 3 different times. That being said, overall, unless it involves a child or some sort of sex offense, they are pretty rare, okay? Normally we get a term of years, 30 years, 40 years, 20 years, and that, and even in domestic cases like this, that's usually more common. So it is surprising the jury gave a life sentence here, but I will say, when a jury does that, it is highly, highly unlikely that a judge will not deviate. And in fact, I think I've only seen a judge deviate one time on a homicide case in my 15 years, and I've never seen it happen on a case where the jury recommended life, ever.
There are cases where a defendant gets, or a convicted felon, if you will, gets life, and then they are out for parole.
Right. And so in this specific case, Brooks Houck will be up for parole in 20 years, okay, minus the time he's got in. Now, that being said, people throw a fit. I say, look, that does not mean he is going to get out. All that means is he is eligible, okay? Certainly, a parole board will look at the serious nature of this case. They will look at victim impact statements, the family involved, and I will tell you, given the volatile nature and the upsetting nature of this case, it would not surprise me. We fast forward 18 years from now when he is up for parole with those extra 2 years he's had in, give or take. I would say there will be family members and members of the community there to tell the parole board, do not let him out.
We have more of the people who were on the stand today. Here's Crystal's aunt speaking in Bardstown.
Not a day goes by that I don't think about Crystal and what you all did to her. I have had so many sleepless nights, and still there are times when I pick up my phone to call her, but I can't because you all murdered her, and you had no right to do that.
Crystal's aunt on the stand there. A life sentence and a circumstantial case in the end. So let's talk about potential for appeal. You've seen the arguments so far, both for Joseph Lawson, Steve Lawson, his dad, and then of course we've got Brooks Houck. Any of them have any standing in
I'm
your
going to
opinion?
start with the worst to the best. I think Brooks Houck has the toughest case going forward. We know there were some recordings that were played. I think that's very strong evidence. There were some hearsay let in that I am concerned about. The judge was a little more liberal with letting in a lot of the hearsay with Joseph Lawson and Brooks Houck's case. That being said, I think Joseph Lawson, their appeal is primarily going to focus a lot on the cell phone records and challenging certain things with that and saying, hey, they got it wrong, this was messed up, et cetera. Now, Steve Lawson is the one I would say has the strongest appeal, if any. I'm not saying anybody's going to win on appeal. I'm just saying the main thing, and I've spoke with Darren Wolf about this. Darren Wolf's a great lawyer, but number one, there's a question about, was there a deal with the prosecution when Stephen Lawson gave that statement to the prosecution, to the police? So there's an issue there that's been litigated, but there's a pretty good appeal issue there. Number two, and I know Darren Wolf is focused on this heavily. Darren Wolf has mentioned to me, hey, the hairs. He's throwing a fit about the hairs. We remember the first trial. He threw a fit about the hairs. And number three is, Darren
that
Wolf
came back
said,
inconclusive.
It did, but I think there was some more testing that could have been done, and they threw a fit asking for a continuance. So that, I don't think it would substantially affect the case, but appeals court could look at that and say, look, this is a high-profile case. There was a large sentence given. I believe Steve Lawson got 18 years. And so, they're going to give high scrutiny to that. And the third thing would be, Darren Wolf came in and said, look, I haven't had time to prepare this case. And that's an ineffective assistance of counsel claim. That would come after the appeals are done, that third claim, okay? That wouldn't come directly right now.
And with the appeal looming, that is frustrating for family members because they're not going to get any kind of response from any of these guys.
And Connie, you and I have talked about this before. You know, these appeals, they file an appeal, but then there's a extension, and then another extension, and then another extension, and the other side wants an extension, and they want an extension to file a reply. And a lot of times, I mean, I had a homicide case set for 4 years at the Court of Appeals, or the Supreme Court, rather. And so, you know, this stuff can go on and on and on. And it doesn't mean one side's going to win or the other. It's just, you know, appeals are a very lengthy process. They have to go back and read the entire trial transcript. They have to look at all the hearings. They have to basically review, they have to start over and review everything.
And that wraps up this special report for now. Brooks Houck getting life in prison. Joseph Lawson, 25 years in prison. Continuing coverage on WHAS 11 and WHAS 11 Plus.